Okay, guys, so welcome to day one of Cloud Performance Engineering and DevOps, everyone. So, for the first day, which was on Tuesday, we went over the first demo and we just gave the introduction about this course, and I just walked through all the topics that we're gonna cover. So that we're gonna cover is the cloud, AWS Cloud. On the cloud front, we have a lot of cloud offerings, right? Cloud service providers. We have the leader one. If you look at the industry standards, like the lead market leaders, cloud market leaders, if you say, of 2022 or 2021, whatever, like from the last quite some time, the Amazon is leading from the front. So what it means that we have like AWS has more than 40 to 50% of the market share. So let's say there are 100 companies. So out of 100 companies, 40 to 50 companies are using AWS. And then the other companies, we have a Gartner. I can go to any report, right? Let's just take a cloud ecosystem, or let's go to register.com, or you can go to Gartner report as well. So we can, in AWS also, a lot of, like if you look at the competitor here, so look at this, the AWS. Okay, so that's this is okay. Cloud market growth and segment leaders, right? If you look at the, so all top three are without no doubt always the competition between AWS, Azure. Microsoft cloud offering is called Azure, and Google cloud offering is called GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and they are the leaders. If you look at the Gartner report, cloud, it's a go to Gartner report, one of the famous reliable source of information. If you look at Gartner report, you would see that. Let me just, if you was just read this through, right, you will understand that AWS has 40% of the market share. And to get started, right, we should know one cloud service provider. Like the competition is like such that if today, let's say AWS is launching one service, and to in a week's time or 10 days, 15 days, it Azure and GCP would come up with a similar service, right? So we'll get started with the first AWS cloud, right? And we have lots to cover in AWS cloud, right? We are covering from very scratch. Like if you have not worked with cloud or not provision anything, not used, so that's the best place, because we're gonna start from scratch. I am gonna assume that my audience doesn't know anything about cloud, so I'm gonna build up from the ground up, right? So that's about, and to get started, like why AWS, like I mentioned, the largest market share, right? And once you know one cloud service provider, it's quite easy to relate others. Just to give you a brief, so this is the AWS console that I have, right? Everything that you do is from this. So when I talk about the cloud, what actually means in the layman term, right? So let's say if you have to set up your infrastructure, let's say you have some business idea, and you want to build your application. So you need servers to deploy, right? For that, earlier back then, what used to do, you people used to set up their own data center. Data center is a very costly affair, right? You will have to acquire the land, you have to construct the infrastructure, you have to purchase all the hardware, all the servers, you have to go off all the licensing for all the operating system, all the softwares that you're going to deploy. So you basically, it's very costly affair. Not everyone can afford to have a data center, right? To set up a data center. So what is actually happens here, that we people go for cloud, and they can rent the servers basically. So if I just talk about a data center, how it looks, just to give you a feel of a data center. So when I say data center, imagine a building full of servers. Okay, this is a data center, and you will have to purchase everything, right? You will have to purchase the to set up this. You have to purchase the land somewhere outside the city, a big land fee in acres, right? Then you have to construct everything, the infrastructure, the building. You have to purchase all these racks, all the servers in it. You have to power supply, multiple power supplies, not just one, multiple of everything redundant, right? So network, multiple power switches, right? Backups, right? Safety, you have to put security guards. So it's a very costly affair. Not everyone can afford, right? So what these cloud service providers have done it, they have set up the data center all across the globe, right? And we as an end user, what we do, we cannot, since we cannot afford, we cannot just put so much of amount of money inside of my data center. We just go to AWS and ask, can I use your servers? Can I use this server or 100 servers? I'll pay this much monthly rent. That's what. So we are not owning the server. We are putting on for rent. That's what their business model is, right? So we're going to go to AWS, and they have given this beautiful console to get everything, whatever you need. If you need the server, they AWS tells you that go to one service called EC2. Okay, EC2 is one of the service. It stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. The first thing is that you want the server, right? First thing, compute server you need. How much capacity you can decide later, but first thing you need is the server. So all the cloud service providers work in the similar way. Everyone has got the console, right? And console means on-demand self-service. Like anyone can get this account created. So everyone would have this account created. I'm going to help you out if you have not done that before. Quite simple. And AWS tells that if you want the server, go to EC2 service, click on this EC2, right? And it'll open the EC2 module, right? That's how it launches the EC2 module. And you can go and configure your server. As simple as that. So when you configure your server, what you gonna configure? You're gonna configure what is the operating system you're gonna install. So I can go to instances. I'm just showing you one of the demo, how cloud works, just to get you a feel. So I went to the instances. Now I mentioned launch instances. I just launched instances. So the first thing they're going to ask, choose the operating system. So in AWS world, uh, operating system, they call it AMI, Amazon Machine Image. They call it AMI. So I'm going to select, they have a plethora of options here. Amazon Linux 2 is one of the operating system. Then you have from Mac OS Monterey, right? You have Big Sur, right? And then you have Red Hat, popular one, right? You have SUSE Linux, you have Ubuntu, you have Microsoft. So all the options, deep learning, AMI, Ubuntu supported. So all the options you have, so they have everything for you. So you can configure it, whatever you want. So if you want, if you need a Linux operating system, so you can select in Linux operating system. You can go with Amazon Linux 2, or you can go with uh, Mac, Red Hat, right? Or you can go with Ubuntu or SUSE Linux, whatever. Okay. So let's say I just went with Red Hat. Everyone is aware of Red Hat, or Windows operating system. I can select that as well, right? So I went ahead with, let's say, Red Hat operating system. I just selected the operating system. The first step is getting the operating system. Second thing would be, I'll talk about compute, right? How much compute, how much cores, like it's the same way how you configure your laptop, right? You do select, right, that you prefer. Okay, you want this operating system. How much cores you want in your CPU, right? How much GB RAM you need, right? So that is what this second is instance type. You have the option of selecting all the way till from 1 vCPU. You can go all the way till, because you 96 vCPUs. You can just understand how much compute. You can go all the way till 192 vCPU. So very highly powerful machine you can configure. The idea is how you're able to do that, because they have done the virtualization, right? I was talking about the virtualization concept in the first session, right? I did talk about that. Basically, you have a big physical server. Back in 1980s, when the software development started, this is the big physical server. Let's say that big physical server you have. It is having a capacity of, let's say, I'm just giving one capacity. It could be more also, right? It's 1,000 cores, vCPUs, right? And I'm just, let's say, imagine some 1 TB RAM. This is the capacity of this big physical server. So AWS has installed a hypervisor, a virtualization software. Right? They have done it already. And because they have done it, they have installed a hypervisor software, or a virtual. They are using basically VMware, the virtualization software, VMwares, because they have done the virtualization. That is why you are able to create an instance. You're able to create a VM out of this physical server, right? What you're doing, you're just configuring, right? Just now, what you were doing some time back, you were just configuring the operating system, some vCPUs, some RAM, taking one slice from the big physical server. That's what you're doing. There's a big physical server in the back end which you don't get to see, right? And you're just working on this part, that you need this vCPU. Someone can ask for bigger vCPUs, perfectly fine. Someone can ask for even bigger vCPU, or someone can ask for even smaller vCPUs with their own configuration. AWS would give everything, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm just taking one of the slices from the big physical server. So that's where the VM is all about. This is the big physical server, and I'm creating a VM from that, because the software that was installed is virtualization software, and AWS is using the VMware virtualization software, right? So I can configure all the way till 192 vCPUs, or I can just, since I'll tell you that because of the free tier, you can select t2.micro. There are some, AWS provides some free tier as well, where you will not gonna be charged for 1 year or 750 hours of compute. If you use t2.micro, there is some free tier. Okay, so I'm going to select this, or I can select whatever 8 vCPUs I'm interested in, right? I can select all 8 vCPUs, 32 GB RAM, perfectly fine. I selected this, core is done. So I'm going step by step, right? Now, this is about networking. I'll again talk about that. It is like AWS has multiple regions, right? If I talk about their global presence, they are present in 26 regions across the globe, right? You can see this. Currently, I'm working in the US West 2 region. Uh, you have US East 1, US East 2, Ohio. You have North California, US West 1. They have set up data centers across the globe, right? And they are the regions. I'll talk about the difference between a region and a data center, right? They have 26. If you look at the AWS global infrastructure, you will get exactly picture, because they are still developing, they're still growing, they're constructing more and more data center, right? If you look at their 26 launch regions as of now, as of today, right? And they have 84 availability zones, 84 availability means 84 data centers. In the 26 regions, they have 84 data centers. They are serving 245 countries across the globe. And apart from that, they have some other components as well. I'll discuss. Just I'm trying to keep it simple, just to make you understand what is cloud, what are we dealing with here, right? So that's about one part, right? So I can configure. This is about the networking, which VPC. Every region has got a VPC network part. Okay, just understand that network part. Okay, VPC, virtual private cloud, we call it. And this Oregon, Oregon, this particular region, US West 2 that we are talking about, US West, right? This has got 4 availability zones, 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. I can select any one of the availability zone from here. I can mention that in this data center I want my server, or in this data center I want my server. I can configure that as well. This is that on-demand self-service. They have given this self-service, right? I can just select this anything, and I can select add. Next thing is disk, right? Obviously, now think about your laptop. That's what you do. You get the operating system, you got the core, you got the RAM, you need the disk, right? SSD. So I can configure how much of SSD I want, 256, 512, or whatever. So whatever are required, not should not waste that. So let's say just say use just 10 gig or whatever, 100 gig, whatever I need. I selected that. Let's say I clicked on review and launch. That's all I can do. Or I can do, give a name to this server name. I can give server one, whatever. This is something about a security group. Like I can configure Security is very important in cloud, so I can configure which port is accessible, who all can access my EC2 instance. The server EC2 means the VM which I'm creating, the virtual machine. Who all can access? I can configure this. Which port is allowed? If I'm gonna cancel this, I port 22. Can anyone tell me why port 22 is being used? I just want to check your knowledge. Why port 22 we use? It's been written there, right? SSH, right? I hope everyone understands SSH, right? You can only log into Linux operating system through SSH. In Windows, what do we use? RDP, remote desktop protocol we use, right? Here we use SSH protocol. So you can just see all the protocols here. So for Windows, we use RDP. And what is the default port for Windows? 3389, right? I hope you must have seen this port. This is the predefined port. Since it's a Windows operating system, I want to SSH into that, log in into that. So port 22 is allowed. I am allowing port 22. If I just delete this, I cannot even SSH into this EC2 instance, this VM, and I can restrict also. I can only give my public IP here. Only I am allowed to log in. I can mention which public IP. So currently, if you look at my computer, this currently which I'm working on. So if you go to Google, even if you can go to Google and you can type what's my IP. So this is my currently public IP. You can also check your public IP. Right? This is your public IP. I am available on the web in this public IP. This is where my laptop is identified over the web. But this is unique, right? If I change my network, I will get this change. This public IP is being given by through my internet service provider. Currently, I'm using ACT here. Let's say this being given by ACT. If you use Airtel or if you're in AT&T or different depending on internet service provider ISP, uh, that's why they charge some money from you, right? Because they provide you this, they have to purchase this. It is limited, so I can just assign myself. I have the control. I can just provide this. If I give this, this is called CIDR. I'm going to talk about this in the VPC module. If I provide this, only I can SSH into this EC2 instance. No one else but me can SSH into this EC2 instance. No one else in this world, entire world. Only this laptop, which has got this public IP, can SSH into this EC2 instance. This security group tells me that. I have configured the security group. Only port 22 is allowed. Even if I will install any application, let's say on port 80, let's say I install a web server. Let's say.
Sorry for the interrupt. But here you mentioned by 32, right? So what's that actually?
Yeah,
After,
I'll come to that. I have to go to VPC. This is a CIDR, classless interdomain routing. I will have to take 1 hour of session to tell you that. 32 means, just to keep you brief, 32 means this is called CIDR notation. Okay, we call it CIDR. Okay, let me just talk about this a minute. I'm going to talk just 2 minutes. Not going to more. Give me a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. Just got the call. Okay, see, I hope I'm audible, guys. Everyone, yes. Am I audible to
Yeah.
everyone? Okay. See, this
Yeah.
is called CIDR notation. Okay, classless interdomain routing. Okay, and the normal notation works in this way. You have to give 0.0. This is the public IP. Okay, IPv4 public IP. I hope everyone understands IPv4 here. And this is called subnet mask. This tells me this is how CIDR works. CIDR is a range of IP address. Okay, it is not one IP address; it's the range of IP address. And when you give 0 here, it means all the public IPs in the world, because the way you calculate CIDR, the range of IP address, is this is the first IP address, okay, and the last IP address for this notation is 255.255.255.255. Okay, and this means how many IP address, so uh, I'm just giving a formula. Subtract this number by 32. So 32 minus 0 is 32, right? Whatever the output you got, 2 raised to the power of that value, right? So I got 32 value, right? I did 32 minus 0. I got 32. So total number of IP address would be 2 raised to the power of 32. These many IP address is being denoted by this CIDR. So you asked that question, why did I give 32? Since I gave 32, I only wanted to give my IP, right? I didn't want to give anyone's IP, right? So why I gave 32? Because I wanted to only allow this IP, not anyone else IP. So since I gave 32, if you do 32 minus 32, it will be 0. 2 raised to the power of 0 is how much? Can anyone tell me? Huh?
1.
1. 2 raised to the power, yes, 1. Because why I wanted 1? Because I wanted only this IP to be allowed. And I have to be in this format, CIDR format. That's why I give 32. If I want to allow some other IP, I will change this digit. This is called subnet mask. I will talk about this in the VPC module in detail. I just kept it brief. Subnet mask, we call it. Okay, so that's why I gave 32, because I wanted to allow only my IP. Okay, so I can launch this. I can review and launch. I don't want to launch it because I have configured quite some, cost a lot. For no reason, I'm not gonna do that, right? So I just if I launch it, I will get DC2 instance provision, right? So this is called on-demand self-service, and every cloud service provider has given you this console. This is about the server, but you need some other things also. Tomorrow you need database, or you need some storage. The entire Netflix content, the entire Netflix is hosted. Netflix, I hope everyone understand Netflix. Must have seen something, heard of. Entire Netflix is hosted on S3, and where they have hosted all the content that you see is in S3. S3 is one of the service in AWS. This is called Simple Storage Service. S3. Entire Netflix content is hosted here. So any kinds of storage, object storage we call it. S3 is the object storage. Simple storage service, and we use S3 for storing something, right? I can, so for different use cases, you have different services, right? So if you need databases to be created, so if you're not using, let's say, cloud, how you are installing databases, everyone? You are provisioning one server. You're provisioning one server, and this server has an operating system, I'm assuming that, and then you're installing database on top of this. You're manually installing database, right? That's what we are doing, right? Your, or whatever database it could be. It could be MySQL, or it could be SQL Server, right? It could be SQL Server, or it could be Oracle, whatever databases, or it could be some NoSQL databases as well, MongoDB, right? Could be anything. That's what we are doing. But in cloud, we have as a managed service. We don't need to install. Installation is no more a headache right now in cloud, because they have automated everything. If I show you, how can you leverage? I can go to RDS service. RDS is a relational database service. They call it RDS. I can go to RDS. I'm just giving you a glimpse of cloud. What do we cloud offers? Cloud is gonna automate a lot of stuff. right? You are not finding nowadays more DBAs, right? Database administrator, because all those installation and maintenance have been automated by cloud service provider. You're gonna find mostly developers who are doing tuning work or performance engineers who are doing tuning work. Not we do, today in current world we don't need a people to install database or maintain database. We don't need such a people. Those people are obsolete now because of this cloud. So you need to also upscale yourself, right? I'm going to tell you how do I create a database. I'm going to simply create a database. It's a relational database. All a relational database you're going to see. I have the option, plethora of options AWS has given, which database I'm interested in. MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle database, SQL Server, whatever database, I can just go and select it. Oracle database. I just select it. Which version? If I have the license, I can bring my own license. Enterprise edition version or enterprise edition or standard edition 2, whatever I want. I can install all the way till 19C, or from I can also install if I select standard edition 2. I have all the options. I can just select all the options today. You can see these options still. Oracle 19 is the standards, so people are using Oracle 19. Oracle has come 21C as well, right? Autonomous database has also come, so you can just select one database version that you are interested in. Let's say I selected in this. I just selected the version. Production, it's gonna create production. It's gonna create one active database and one passive database, standby production database. I can mention the database name. I can provide some credentials. I will provide all the details. I'm going to mention which storage type. I can mention the storage. I can mention the how much disk I want for the database. Right. I can the auto scaling is just click of an option. I will never run out of space of database because of this option. Because of one option, I will never run out of space of database. It will automatically grow. I can mention till how much it can grow. And I can also get the high availability. I can also install the database in multi-AG. I can install the two database instance. One database would be my primary instance and one would be my standby database. So even if one of the primary database goes down, immediately the traffic would redirect to my standby database. High availability. I can mention my VPC detail here, where which subnet, which VPC I want to create it, and all the way I'll just click create database. That's all I will do. It will take 10 minutes. I will get the database. That's how in cloud we are working. That's how things have been there from quite some time now. So the installation, the maintenance, people complained disk out of space, like we don't have space. Just check this option out. Just click this option, auto scaling options. You will never run out of disk. Do multi-AG deployment. Your database will never be down. Even if your primary database is down, you have standby database. Just do indexing, proper indexing. Do proper sizing. Tuning means indexing. Do proper SQL tuning. That's all you need to do. That developers can also do, or performance engineers can do. That is at the application development front, not from the database tuning front. You don't need to. That's how things have been in database. I'm just giving you example. I just gave you 3 examples. I talked about EC2, I talked about S3, where I can store all the object, everything. I talked about database. Similarly, I have different use case. I have a load balancer. In EC2, I can scale up a load balancer. Let's say I have multiple EC2 servers. Right? I need a load balancer because I have, let's say, 10 servers. I need to load balance the traffic. I can set up one load balancer. I can just come here, I can create one load balancer. Right? Or if I need automatic scaling, if I need automatically the servers would get provision based on my usage, based on my load. Today, 250 users are accessing my application. Tomorrow, 500 users are accessing my application. I don't need to do anything. Auto scaling will take care. I just need to configure the auto scaling appropriately based on some metrics, CPU, memory, disk, network, load balancer. I just need to set up right metric, and automatically my servers would get auto scaled. That's how simple it is, right? So as a performance engineer, you just think what you're supposed to do now. You're gonna just test. First part is to test the application. You can script in whatever performance testing tool you have, Jmeter, LoadRunner, Silk Performer, Gatling, Locust. You can use this tool to send the traffic. Now API testing is the automation is itself simple. The scripting is simpler. Yeah, anyone can do API automation, right? It's about just API. Uh, Correlation is hardly there. So you can use it, load it, look at the server. You can look at all the server you see in the CloudWatch. Let's say if you have all the servers deployed in AWS, you have a service called CloudWatch. You can just view all the metrics in the cloud. You can create a dashboard at the infrastructure level. Remember, at the infrastructure level, not at the process level. If a Java process is running, a CloudWatch is not going to help you. It is at the infrastructure level. If you have a Java process running, you will have to spin up JVisual VM or some APM tools. So you can create a dashboard. You can create a dashboard or whatever dashboard you want, CPU, memory, disk. This is CloudWatch is integrated with all the AWS services. Either it is EC2 or S3 or load balancer or auto scaling. It is integrated with all the AWS. You can just have one dashboard showcasing everything here, displaying everything, all the metrics. That's brief about the cloud, right? Anyone has any question? I hope everyone is on the same page. Everyone is able to follow, right?
Hi, actually, I have one doubt.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, if the applications are deployed on AWS, which is linked to an organization, then how do we access the CloudWatch?
LinkedIn organization. So organization is having you should be able must be having the rights, right? If I am the administrator, I can give you the view rights of CloudWatch. If you
Okay.
if my infrastructure is deployed in AWS, we have a service called IAM again. So I have not talked about
Okay.
this. So you can add the users. We have a service called IAM, Identity and Access Management. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. I can add you as a user. So when you join my organization, let's say I am the root user, I am the owner of this AWS account where infrastructure is created. I can add you. I can create a user for you, and I will give you a password, username, credentials, ID, password. Since I have given like same thing I have created here. I am not the root user. Currently, I have created one of the user as Roshan, and this Roshan user has logged in. I can create your user as well, Naz, and I can give you credentials and whatever I have given myself admins. I will not give you admin access. I will give you the limited access. Whatever you need. Least privilege principle is what everyone should follow in cloud. I will give you that. I will add a user. I will create an account for you. I will give you the user access. So you can log in and you can access. You have all the roles, policies. That's why this IAM is used for. IAM is designed for that to add. So this happens at the organization level. Okay. So IAM is to add users and with the limited permissions. Not everyone can be admins, right? So I will give you only required access.
Roshan, that means for the entire environment, whatever you are creating, so that environment can access by those particular user, whatever you are going to create in IAM. So it's about for the entire environment or to the particular VM, whatever the machine, whatever you are creating.
I can define you at the server service level also. I can give you S3 full access, or I can give you EC2 full access, or I can give you RDS full access. I can assign this kind of policy also. Look at the policy. Policy means permissions. Once I create the user, the second step is to Okay, if I create a user, I create a user, add users. Okay, let's say I'm creating a user, whatever name, ABC. First of all, that user has to be in the group or need not be in the group. Okay, first let's say I'm creating one user. So let's say now I'm going to assign, do I need to provide them access key, programmatic access, where the guy can log in using a. So this is the console. You can also work through AWS CLI or software development kit. Okay, you have that level of access directly from the code itself. Developers does that directly from the SDK, whatever the Java or Python or whatever software development kit you are developing. Directly from the code, you can invoke the API services. So I can provide you. Let's say I'm not going to give you this. So I can only give you the console access. Let's say only password. I can assign your password. That will be changed as the first login. I can give you auto-generated password. Next is permission. I can give you what permission I want to give you. Attach existing policies. Whatever. So whatever I can give you from here, whatever policy I want. Administrator access. No, I don't think so. You need administrator. What I can do, I'm thinking you as a S3. You're gonna work on my S3. So I can give you S3 full access. You will have in S3 whatever bucket I will create, you will have all the access. Or let's say RDS database. Today I felt, oh, you are gonna be my database guy. So I can give you RDS full data. You will have access to all the databases. Or I can be environment specific also at the organization level. Let's say I have multiple customers, A, B, C. I can give you all the access for customer A. Let's say I'm going to recruit you and I'm going to put you on my customer A. Let's say I'm giving a SaaS provider. I can give you all the access which is required in customer A, or the read access in customer A. I can give you that. So I can manage this through IAM. So I don't need to add you always as the administrator. I don't need to provide you. You need not be administrator. I need to secure my uh, account also, right? I don't want you to have unnecessary access. So we always follow list privilege principle. Always list privilege principle. So LPP. Yeah. So always we do that.
Yeah, so here when we set up any of these components, is there a chance of error, like the size of whatever or the number of cores, whatever we request?
As a performance engineer, the people are gonna ask you, give me the right sizing. Why you are a performance engineer? People are gonna ask you. I'm having 500 user expectation. My environment should scale up to 500 user. You give me the right sizing. People are gonna ask you. You need to benchmark it. You are responsible to answer that question. Literally, that's the role of a performance engineer. Correct?
Okay, then how can we define or come to a baseline or come to that sizing? I am not so clear on it.
You can always have this kind of a thought, right? You always start from, you cannot be 100% exactly pinpointing to the right 8 cores and 32 GB. You will have to do some heat and trial. You will have to understand how much core, how much budget, how much core, how much user, depending on the, I cannot give you, for let's say for my application it is 16 core, 32 GB RAM. For your application, it not be correct, right? So you need to do hit and try. You need to understand from the developer where they have they done the unit testing, what they have used, what type of application it is, how heavy it is. Then you have to take one server. You need to understand how much you can scale up to. Then you will have to extrapolate and come up with the size.
Okay. So you mean to say we come with different proportions and do the performance test and come to our conclusion based on that?
Exactly, because all the applications are different. All the workloads are different. If whatever I am testing for my application did not hold true for your application. Correct? So you will have to understand your application. I'm not asking you to provision all 10 servers at one time. Understand how much one server you are scale up to. 10 users, 20 users, 30 users. If you're exceeding more than 30, you are getting higher response time. CPU utilization is going higher. So you understood one server can scale up only 30 users or 100 TPS or 50 TPS. So you need to do some proper testing to come to the right sizing, right?
Yeah. Just one quick doubt. During one of my testing, I have seen 502 errors coming. That is, the page is not being served. So that could be again due to the sizing is not proper, right?
Yeah, that could be one of the case, because the more the use the you're hitting the server so much. Look at the CPU utilization, memory utilization. Okay, you're hitting the server so much that the server is incapable of the service your request, right? So 500, 502, bad gateway, that because of those things only it happens.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Roshan.
Hi.
Yeah. So you are discussing about that auto scaling option, right?
Right.
So how that auto scaling work? Like there is any trigger, like if memory is
Yes,
like
yes.
out of memory exception, then we have to
Not out of
increase
memory.
that.
We will not take action when you will get out of memory exception. We will not wait till that moment. You don't want to wait till that moment, right? Out of memory, your means server is going down.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to wait, right? So I can do the auto scaling much earlier, maybe when CPU is 40 or 60, 50 to 60, 65%, or I can give a threshold of memory also. I can understand where my GC is happening, right? I know where my max GC uh, is size 2, and I can mention that if my max heap utilization goes above this, you can always do the GC trigger at 80% of the assigned heap, right? Yes, I hope you know that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
can
Yeah.
mention if you can give like 85%, whatever you can calculate based on your heap. So if a memory is using more than 85% or 80 touching 85%, scale up. Or then you will have to also understand is there any memory leak. See, auto scaling will helpful, but it will not going to solve your application issues. You need to troubleshoot why memory leak happened, right?
Yeah,
So
that was my question. Like, if there is a memory leak, then we have to troubleshoot that leak only. We should
yes,
not do the auto scaling, right?
that auto scaling will help you buy you some time.
Okay.
Correct. Auto scaling will buy you some time. Let's say you have 5 servers, and one of the servers, let's say one of the servers is going out of memory. At least you have 4 servers to serve the request, right? And then you can troubleshoot why this issue happened. And that's the best part of
Okay.
Kubernetes pods, right? Pods restarts. Let's say what that's the best part of Kubernetes, which I was talking about other day, right? How Google were able to
Mm-hmm.
manage your such a large workload, because they have pods, and the pods, when they, let's say when pods goes out of memory, it recreates another pod,
Okay.
and then you can troubleshoot the issue. Obviously, I'm not denying performance issues. You don't have to figure it out, but these things will help you buy some time. Right? Your application will
Okay.
not go down, right? You will not have
Yeah, yeah.
you will not have downtime, at least.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And the cost will automatically increase, right?
The more the servers you use, no doubt.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
From this discussion, what I understood is, even though there is a memory leak in the application, when we use this auto scaling in cloud, maybe from this, when we observe the pods being recreated, it could indicate a memory leak in the application.
See, or not always memory. You have to see in the logs whether out of memory happened or not. Have you got such kind of a mirror as a message in the logs or not? Out of memory exception or not, right? Pod restart doesn't always mean memory leak, right? You'll have to understand why the pod restarted. You'll have to go over the logs. I'm just talking about the pod situation here, okay? Because pods, Kubernetes, right? See, it's the VM. Don't get confused. This EC2 is you giving you VM. As I told you, if you have followed, on top of this, you're gonna create pods, correct? I hope you followed that last session.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that you can mention in the Kubernetes that you always need 10 pods up and running. You can mention that. And let's say for any region, one of the pod got restarted. What happens? It will always maintain 10 pods. If you mention in the Kubernetes, there's a property called replica set. In the YAML, you can mention that you always need 10 pods of this application. So always 10 pods should be running. Okay. And let's say you have benchmarked it. Let's say 10 users are supporting 500 users or 500 TPS or whatever use workload. So that will keep on supporting. And let's say if a restart is happening, frequent restart, at least you have some time to troubleshoot why the restart is happening. You need to check out the logs, why restart is happening. There could be other issues as well, right? So unless you don't see memory out of exception, there are 5 kinds of memory leak happen, right? Right. So you need to understand what memory leak has happened. And there are 5 kinds of memory leak.
Where to check the logs, Roshan?
In the logs, you will give it in the. So again, depends what you're using. Are you using server or pod?
Okay. If in case of server, then
Where
do we have a provision to check logs in
go
AWS anyway?
SSH. Whatever server I was provisioning, do SSH, go to where log. So for that sake only, I have the second part. I think you are not aware of the Linux commands. That's what I can feel. You have not checked level loops. That's why this Linux second module is going to make you comfortable Linux. So you should know where is the log. Let's say it's a Linux server. And you should know where in Windows you have C drive, right? So you should understand where the logs get stored. When you create, install any application, you can mention where the logs would go. So same thing happens when you install any application in Linux, you can define where the logs should go, right? So mostly it's under the where and where log, right? Under where is the, I hope everyone understands where, right? People are not sounding. Under root, we have a where. I hope you know that, right? Guys, am I talking something gibberish? Okay. So under root command, so we have that directory structure, right? In Linux. And we have where directory there, right? Look at this, where directory is there. Where is this directory? Under root, we have under where logs, we can see this. It is, or you can also in the opt. So wherever you asking, okay, I don't know why where or not there. So mostly where log we set up, right? So you have 9 like this is the root directory. You can mention where you want to send the logs, and you can go to that particular location and see the logs. And that is where the second topic I'm going to make you comfortable with Linux, okay? To how to access Linux, right? How do you log into a Linux VM? How do you access directory? In Windows, C drive, D drive, you can open the folder, you can find a text in a file. You can replace a word or rename the file, right click, rename, F2, rename. But the same things can be done in Linux, right? It is just an operating system and it's all about commands, right? So we're going to talk about that here, right? And then we have some Linux performance monitoring commands. We'll see over that. Top uptime. I hope everyone will be using this performance engineers. I'm expecting from them as well, at least. So must be using a top like vmstat uptime. They are the famous commands that we use in Linux operating system. Right? Load average we check in the top, right? Disk usage df-h, we can give this disk usage. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about containers, Kubernetes, right? And then Jenkins. We'll talk about that. Right. So we just need to do SSH. If it's since it's a Linux, you can SSH into that Linux box and you can go to that respective location. You can check the logs. And you can check the logs. And the best part in Linux that you can also display the logs. If you're using a managed service, let's say database, right? I was talking about. You don't need to log in inside the database. Everything you can see it in the AWS console only. Every law you can see in the console itself. Since it's a managed service, you will not have access to log into the database. You don't get the server because you're not installing on the server. AWS is installing on behalf of you, right? So they put everything on a UI itself, so you can pull the logs from the server itself, and you can see these are the logs. You can see it here. Data. If you go to the databases, if you create a database, I'm going to show you. You can go to that database and you can see the logs. You can see all the performance insights, right? You can, again, you're going to see all the graphs and all from your database and all. Okay. Any more questions before I continue?
Is there an option where we can change the version? We were selecting the versions of OS and all, right? Is there an option we can?
There only, right? Like version means
No, no.
after installing the.
Yes, yes.
So update
Yeah.
it. App updated. App install.
Oh, we can.
Yum install. Those are the. If you are in Linux, depending on your flavor Linux distribution, if you're using Debian family like Ubuntu, you can use apt update. Right? If you're using Red Hat, you can do yum update. Like you update the operating system, all the packages. Like how you do Windows update. Same thing I'm talking about. You do Windows update, right?
Yeah, I was checking the other way. Even in the like Windows 10 to Windows 7, older version also can be changed in this.
Can you know that is how it was? Can you do it in your Windows laptop?
No.
Downsizing is not you update the packages, right? Whatever the security fixes, bug fixes happen on Windows 10, you'll get the updated code. That's what. It update means that you cannot downsize, right? So that package, that library are completely different, right? It is
Okay.
a 32-bit, Windows 7 is 32-bit, could be 32-bit, Windows 10 is 64-bit. There are a lot of differences. You cannot do that. Okay, we'll talk about, I do see one Elastic API getting provision. I should, okay, I think I missed to. So we're gonna talk about all this stuff. Okay. So as I was talking about, like so in the cloud, you're gonna talk about a lot of things. Okay. This is the storage services options. Security group. We'll talk about IAM. We'll talk about databases. We'll talk about networking, right? Security groups. We'll talk about load balancing, auto scaling group, cloud monitoring, beanstalk, cloud formation. We're going to talk about a lot of things, right? Then Linux, we'll talk about it, right? And then software architectures, Docker, container engine, right? How do you create containers in one VM? We'll talk about that here. And then container orchestration engine, Kubernetes. Once we have the containers, how do you orchestrate them? Load balance, auto scale, right? Here I'll talk about pods. And here I'm going to talk about EKS. Every cloud service provider, they have used Kubernetes. Kubernetes is an open source. You can create a VM and you can install Kubernetes. It's from Google, and Google has donated spelling mistake, my bad. So Google has donated Kubernetes to CNCF. Now Kubernetes is maintained by CNCF. It is open source. You can directly install on the VM. But what cloud service providers have done, they have automated that. That same thing what they have done for databases, right? Same thing. We're going to talk about EKS. It's one of the service for Kubernetes. Elastic Kubernetes. They have automated this. You don't have to install the Kubernetes. It's a manual process. Installing Kubernetes is a long process. You will have master node. You will have to have the clustered nodes. lot of things needs to be configured. Here, if you use Kubernetes, it's by one command, you will have the master node, cluster node, and you will directly install in the application. We'll talk about how do we configure HPA, cluster autoscaler, and things like that. So that's what this course is all about, guys. We're gonna. So I've just given you a brief about the course today, and obviously the CI/CD. Nothing goes well with the DevOps. We are in the DevOps phase, so you need to be part of DevOps. How do you contribute to Jenkins pipeline using performance job, automated performance job? We'll talk about that. So that's what this course is all about, right? I'm going to give you this link again. I do see some new people joining. So please go over this link again, guys. So the demo has already started. Today was the first day. I have given some introduction, and we're going to continue full-fledged mostly from tomorrow, right? Check out the schedule here. We have all the schedule published. So today we are here, 9th June. We're going to talk about 10th June, right? So we're gonna meet tomorrow, guys. Yeah. Any questions before we wind up?
Yeah, Roshan, Tarun this side. So just want to ask, like you said, for the infra monitoring, there is a CloudWatch, right?
Right.
And for application monitoring, we need to install the APM tools.
Right.
So like if you want to install it, so it will be AWS job, right? They will be installing it for us.
See, what I can last part I missed it. What do you mean by that? AWS job?
So like we want to have a AppDynamics for the APM, right? So they need to be installed on the.
Okay. Now I'm gonna
VM,
ask you.
right?
I'm gonna ask you one question. In your on-premise, who install AppDynamics?
The we
do, right? Same thing.
Yes.
You have one instead.
Okay.
Just replace on-premise with the cloud. That's all. That's all the difference is. On-premise,
Okay.
on-premise means you have the server access. Here also you have the server access. Go and install one of the servers.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. See, not much different from on-premise and cloud. That's what the people are thinking big about cloud. On-premise means you have purchased the damn hardware. You have purchased the everything. You have set up the data center. You have purchased all the hardware. You are paying for all the licensing of the Windows operating system, all the software that you have been using. In the cloud, I'm not purchasing anything. I'm just renting it out. Renting. I just ask paying AWS rent for using it. That's all the difference. Same infrastructure. I own it, here I rent it. That's all the difference. That's what the cloud is all about. Nothing else. Okay. Any last questions before we wind up? Okay. I take the silence that we are all good, guys. So see you guys tomorrow. Hope to see you tomorrow, everyone. Okay. We'll meet tomorrow, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.